Today with us on Stable Stories, we have Mr. and Mrs. Roid Rager, Rhys, and Sarah. Thank you for coming onto the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
So I guess we'll start off with a little bit Z specific. So you bred Roid Rager back during the glitch and breeding before they turned it off and never flick it back on. So
Yeah,
how long ago about was that?
that was in April. There was, I think, maybe like one day where breeding was open before they shut it again. And yeah, he was the first horse I ever bred. It was with a Z2 I bought in the drop just a few days earlier. And yeah, just sort of didn't think about it much. Just um, threw it in with like just a cheap stallion that was actually owned by Doofy. And yeah, just got really lucky or unlucky, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, it was exciting. Definitely an exciting few days there.
So then that April drop, that was your entrance into Z Run then.
Yeah, that was the first time I bought a horse. I only just sort of heard about it a few days before, and I was really excited and definitely keen to buy something in the drop. And got a Z2, which I wasn't necessarily expecting to pay that much, but I just thought, why not? Like, this project sounds amazing, and just wanted to go all in. And yeah, that was my start to Z.
Now, did he tell you he was getting into Z, Sarah, or how did that?
Well, I remember when all this Roid Rage thing started because he was talking to me about his head run like over and over again. And to be honest, it probably was going through one ear and out the other
Yeah.
because before that, he was really into Top Shot. And he
Mm.
was showing me all about it, and I was a bit like, "Oh, I'm not too excited about it." So when he started talking about Zedban, I'm like, "Oh, it's probably just another thing." And yeah, and he brought up this Roid Rage. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's nice, sweetie," not realizing
I was
like,
I was really trying to emphasize how big a deal it was that
yeah,
he got a $1.09 odds in the
yeah,
Griffin,
Yeah.
and she just had no interest. Just like, that sounds nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, this is a really big deal.
Yeah, something about like there was a Z1 in the race that got 50 odds against her, and at the time I didn't get it. I
Yeah,
didn't understand how epic that was.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously he broke breeding, so there wasn't much going on with Z1 for a little while. So I actually didn't get into Z1 until probably the end of July. I
yeah.
think I
After
started
just after
then.
breeding reopened, and it was just mainly because I spent so much time on it myself and talked about it all the time. She's like, "All right, what is this?"
Yeah, yeah,
So I lent her a few horses to play around with,
yeah.
and
Oh,
yeah,
you
she
showed
fell.
me some videos. Like, there's this video that really got me hooked. It was a race of Foxy Samaran, and I believe she has the record for this video. And at 600 meters, she just puts in this kick and she just flies past all these horses. And I was like, this is incredible. Imagine owning this horse. Like, it was amazing. And when I was watching that, that's really what got me hooked into Zedrun. And then breeding, I really got interested in breeding and looking at the family tree. And yeah, from there, I kind of got a little bit hooked, a little bit addicted.
Yeah, so it's good now. We're both hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is really exciting. Now, man, I have so many questions. So, Rhys, from previous interviews, you said you have a professional horse background to some capacity. Is that correct?
Yeah, I used to just always love a punt on the horse racing back when I was a lot younger, and eventually that turned into something that I turned profitable and like slowly made more and more profit, and eventually started doing that full time. And so that's what I've been doing the past like 10 years or so, is just
Mm.
grinding away with real horse race betting. So uh, yeah, that sort of led me into Zedrun. I realized there's a similar set of like a similar skill set required to be successful in Zedrun. So I sort of, yeah, that got me very interested in Zedrun, and also obviously horse racing as well. I figured like the two could I could be successful at both, I guess. The real horse racing is sort of dying down in terms of my ability to make profit on it,
Mm.
and it was a perfect opportunity when Zedrun came along to sort of transfer some of my resources and time to that. So it's yeah, just a perfect perfect timing, really.
And then what's your background, Sarah?
Oh, I have a lot of different backgrounds. I've been a checkout chick, to a flight attendant, to a sales manager. My last job, I was working in a school. And yeah, when Zedron came along, I just felt like it was another opportunity. Everything that I've done before, I feel like I've either reached my peak or I'm getting bored. I want another challenge. I want to do something different. And it kind of aligned at the time. And because of COVID and everything happened as well, we just had more things to do at home. And then, yeah.
Yeah, I think
So,
for a long time you were looking into Amazon and different ways to be self-sufficient with your income, and then I'm just like, yeah, well, I'm doing well with Zedrun. Why don't we both do that? Like, it just made so much sense.
Now, when you're running a horse like Wavelength, do you feel like you're peaking, or what's the next
Well, I don't think
iteration of
Waveland's
challenge?
even in our
I don't think he's even their best horses. Like,
Yeah.
he's one.
Yeah, I was looking at the stable. There's a lot of names in there. I don't think that don't have
Yeah,
notoriety
he
yet.
gets the most recognition because
He's a bred horse.
red Buterin, and
Buterin, yeah.
has that nice color, and always he does well in tournaments. It gets people's attention. But in terms of like value, we have like some class 1 races that don't get much attention because there's not much to do up there. But yeah, that's probably where our overall value of the stable comes more from. But yeah, Wavelength's definitely an exciting horse, and like definitely probably the most fun to race.
I think so as well.
I just have a grudge against him because I keep accidentally running against him in tournaments. When we do run in tournaments in the quarterfinals, he decides to do the whole 4-second win thing. So it's his race, and then everybody else in the race is just trying to figure out who's going to come in second.
Yeah, I try to like. I don't grind out the paid races as much with him anymore. I feel like but then when the tournaments start, everyone's like, "Oh, why is he in a free racing class 5?" I'm just like, just trying to qualify for the tournament, just passing through.
Yeah.
So hopefully, hopefully I'm not annoying people consistently too much because he's just passing through whenever you meet him.
Oh yeah, I think for those couple moments that you are able to pull off a win or nudge him to second, I think it excites us smaller stables enough to make it worth it. Because everybody wants a chance to beat the champ, right? Like there's a reason why Rocky's so exciting.
To race against him. Yeah, it's a weird thing that like even though they probably know they can't or they're unlikely to, like everything has a chance obviously with the randomness of the races. People love throwing in their horses against Wavelength. So races don't have too much trouble filling when he's in there.
Yeah, and it's a great way for others to compete with a good horse in a lower class, instead of having to go all the way up to class 1 where there's other monsters. Some people don't have the ability to be up there, so it's something that's a little bit more exciting for them, to be amongst our race. We always get tagged, or I'm in a race with Wavelength, and
when someone beats him,
when someone beats him,
I just know,
and
I see like a little notification on Twitter. I'm like, I bet someone's just posted a screenshot of beating Wavelength.
Yeah. Now, how do you two break up stable management responsibilities? Because I think I was skimming through 3 or 4 stables that are probably owned by you, and there's at least 100 horses that I could find.
We actually have 6 tables we're managing at the moment. And initially when we started, both of us were doing the racing, or both of us were looking into research into breeding. And it didn't make sense at the time because we're doubling up on the work. So now what we do is we take it in turns and we're swapping roles. And sometimes we're doing the racing together, or Rhys will do, he did the racing for the Fibonacci, and then I was looking into the breeding for the maiden. That way we're not doubling up work, and it makes it a little bit easier.
It's taken a lot of trial and error to figure out what's the best way to both supplement each other and figure out the most efficient way we can be productive. Because if we're both doing the same thing, like both waiting for the same races and stuff, we feel like only one of us could do that, and someone else could focus on the other one of us could focus on something else. And we feel like that's going to be the best way we can be successful as a team.
Now, as Zedron, I found it's like most businesses, it's really easy to spend a lot of time doing non-money making activities, researching horses, playing with bloodlines, watching races. How do you think about time management when doing something like Zed Run full time, to where you're being as productive as possible, but not being disconnected at the same time?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think we're still trying to balance that at the moment. I definitely hear what you're saying. I've personally had my moments where I feel like I'm going through a wormhole, just looking at horses and linking to another one, and it's just endless going and going and going. But yeah, I think we're still trying to find a balance with all of that, especially with engagement with other people or, going on streams or pony blog or whatever. But we're looking at where can we value our time as well and stuff like that. So I think we're still trying to work out what's the best balance with that and where we can maximize our time and our value. So
Yeah, I think I love looking at like data from horses and then finding like, oh, this horse flamed over this one. What's this horse's record? And yeah, you can spend like hours just doing that, and it feels like you're not actually making money doing that. But I feel like I'm understanding the game more and more every time I go through and look at these things, and I feel like it is a valuable thing to do to earn profit in the long run, just not directly. But I think anytime you're engaging with the game and chatting to people, even I feel like it's all a valuable use of our time. Like it's not all just about grinding races. In fact, we're like thinking like the time we spend grinding out small profit in races, like if we spent that time instead sort of researching breeding and things, like that might be a better use of that time. Like maybe people get stuck too much in the grind and forget that you can take a step back and learn more about the game and be more profitable long term rather than just looking at the day-to-day profit.
And in saying that as well, there is value doing that research. Eventually, it all comes back around. Like because we've looked at so many horses, when we see another horse that pops up and is similar, and we can identify that looks like a Princess of Power, or that looks like a Mula Mula, or that looks like a Foxy Siren. All the work that we're putting into research comes back around. Like it's valuable. It's not necessary. I don't feel like we're wasting our time when we're doing it. We're able to identify things a lot quicker, or we're able to identify offspring, good breeding, and all of that. So yeah, we believe hard work definitely pays off. The more you put in, the more you get out.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the underestimated parts of Zed Run. There's a lot of these big stables, like yourself and arbitrage and all that. And I don't think people realize the amount of hours that are going into understanding the game, even racing. I know when I was interviewing Kevin, he couldn't wait to get off the interview, not because he didn't want to do it, but because he knew every single minute he was in an interview was one less race he was entering that day. And
I don't know how he does it. He has a full-time job as well, apparently. And he spends a lot of time, like we've chatted quite a bit, and like he spends a lot of time chatting to lots of other people and still manages to get in like hundreds of races a day. So it's very impressive what he does.
Now, how much has the event-based racing, what looks like where Zed probably going to be transitioning to more event-based racing, how does that change your thought process? Because I know, you guys have talked a little bit about the grind maybe not being worth it, which sounds like event-based racing might be a little bit more in favor of what you would like to do long-term.
Yeah, I think the grind is definitely worth it for some people. Definitely, I personally, before Sarah got on board, was grinding out paid races, and like that's all I would do all day, and I was very successful at that. And I think maybe having done that for months, I'm a bit over that. I think that wasn't something that I wanted to do long term. It does take a toll on you, and it does become a bit boring, I guess, and not enjoyable. But it's definitely like an amazing thing while you're doing it if you're making money, like and just for free basically. So that's something that I definitely encourage players, if they're enjoying the grind, and they should definitely keep doing that. I think for us personally, we're looking to get a bit beyond that and looking more bigger picture, and with the roadmap announcing daily tournaments and more tournaments, we feel that is where we're going to be most interested in spending our resources, I guess. So yeah, that's something we're definitely focusing on now. Finding the types of horses that are going to succeed in tournaments.
Now, what does that look like? Is there something you can kind of share that describes the difference between a grind horse and a tournament horse for people? Because I feel like there's not a good understanding within the community.
Yeah,
Kind of what to look for.
I think the biggest thing is consistency. Like, you need to obviously do well in 25 races, and then I think the biggest key is you need to do well in the 3 tournament races, like the quarterfinal, semi-final, and final. So if a horse is a good like paid racer, often they have a lot of variance, so they're going to win more likely. But it's very hard. You don't need to win to get through to the final. So if you've got a horse with variance, you might win the quarterfinal, but then you're probably going to lose the semi-final, and you're never going to make it to a final. So we're looking for more the horses that we can control more, and we're confident they will finish in the top 3. Like, a lot of ours got to I think we got 6 to the final in the last tournament, and I don't think any of them won races leading up to that. They were just consistent and kept getting seconds and thirds to get into the final. And I think that's what is getting us success in tournaments, instead of these horses that have high win rates. More looking for the ones that might have like a 6% win rate, but it's very consistently coming second and third, and that's what we're looking for now.
I've noticed too, because there's a few smaller stables that they're more grind stables, and when I look at their win rates, they are significantly lower than I think most people would expect. Because when you're researching the top horses, you see the Z1 Nakamotos that just don't know how to lose, or the Princess of Powers that prefer distances, something like 50 or 60% show rate. But then you find other horses. One I know you guys are a little bit familiar with, like Something Magic, that's like an 8% win rate, but it just prints money.
I think he's done amazing with that horse. I think if you look at its long distance, like marathon win rate, it'd be like 28%. I think he just gets it down, keeps it down in class 4, which sort of, if he's running like 75% down class races, then it ends up having a 8% win rate. But in those marathon races, it's like well over like 25% win rate, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's probably something that people don't understand when researching horses, especially new coming into the game, that you don't need, especially once they change the way you downclass to only getting 2 points for the loss. I think that shift a lot of the perceived value within win rate. At least that's been what I've noticed.
Well, now having a high win rate and you got 5 points if you get a win, like that's a big cost to having a win. So you want to make sure you have a horse that when it wins, it's worth it. Like if it can win the $10 or $15 races, that's worth it to get those 5 points. And then you need a horse that you can be confident can downclass. Like, not every horse can downclass. There's some that will just always get like 5th, 6th, 7th when you try to downclass them. And even though they might be good horses, if you can't downclass them, like under the current system, which unfortunately you need to be downclassing to get down low enough so you can win those big races. Like if they can't downclass, they just end up going up and getting stuck. And I think, when looking for a profitable horse, you need to probably look more at whether they can downclass rather than what their win rate is.
Is there anything else that you two look for when you're analyzing horses that are kind of green lights to pay attention to, or keep them on your radar for purchase in the future?
Yeah, I definitely thinking when we're looking at horses, we're looking at all factors of a horse. We're not just looking, is this going to be a good racer, but does it look like it's going to breed good offspring? Because sometimes you got to take a risk in a horse and see if it's a good racer, and if it fails, are we able to use it elsewhere for breeding, or are we able to sell it on again for someone else who might want to use it for a pity point or an age-cape tournament or whatnot? So we're trying to see if it has more than one factor that we're able to use.
Yeah, I think that definitely affects the purchase price. If we see like if this doesn't succeed as a racer, this thing's worthless. Like that makes us a little hesitant to buy something. So yeah, we look for something like, oh, we think it's a pretty good racer, but if it doesn't, we believe it could be a breeder or something. And yeah, that's if we're also looking for horses that breed well and aren't racers at all. So that's looking for sort of everything, combining everything together.
Now, how much have you to adjust your strategies through the different iterations of Zed? Because at one point you were able to race as many times as you wanted, and I don't think many of us took quite enough advantage of that when it was available. And then, fatigue with only 3 races per horse a day was fascinating.
We're constantly having to adapt, and I think to be successful, you have to be able to adapt to the changes. And there's upcoming changes that are coming up, so we're definitely interested to seeing what they are and what we can do with them and how we're able to adapt. At first, it was a little frustrating because you had a plan and you had a strategy, and then they implement something different, and then you have to go ahead and rechange it. But I think us being able to adapt and do the research and look into it is definitely helped us be successful.
Yeah, I think there's going to be so many changes, and the successful stables are the ones that can adapt. If you're locked in playing Zeron and then something, unless you can adapt, you're just going to leave the game. So I think people should always be expecting change and be ready to adapt to that change while also succeeding in the current system.
What changes are you two looking forward to the most?
Not that excited about ELO. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with ELO, but some people are very optimistic about it, and we'll just wait and see what happens there. But we're not sure. That's from the sounds of the way that they described it. It seems like it's going to be a pretty similar system. Like maybe you lose points based on who you're facing more, rather than just in every race. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't think that's a huge change coming. I think what's a change coming that you think of that might have more?
I was interested when they announced daily tournaments instead of having to do it weekly. I'd be interested to see what the qualifying will be of daily tournaments, because initially we did like having to do paid racing on a daily basis. So maybe this could be a new way of us doing racing on a daily basis other than weekly.
I think that will introduce a lot more people to tournaments as well. The people that it is a big time commitment doing 25 races over a week, but if it's, I don't know how they're going to structure it, but if it's just like a few races you need to do in a day, then that's something that everyone can get involved with, and you don't need to spend a ton of time grinding out tournament races. So, and that's something that could be very exciting. I think if they have like leaderboards on the site, that's going to be something that encourages people to race.
And they also have custom racing is awesome. I love getting together with other people.
I'm really excited for that one.
It doesn't have to be about, it doesn't always have to be about winning. It's just getting together with the people that you enjoy racing. Like that really is going to probably help onboard more people if you're able to go on a race with your friends or meet other people in the community and get along. Yeah, I'm looking forward to custom racing. So,
and just the way some of these community tournaments are run, like having custom races will just make that so much easier. And they're just going to be more successful with those.
Yeah, I think one of the things that are undervalued about Zed Run is the community, because the community-led tournaments are incredible, and there's been so many different iterations of it, so many different people who have come together to build them out. And then now Zed Run seems to be taking notice, and if not officially partnering, at least making sure that it's more well known that they're happening. The Metaverse Gaming guys getting their Moscato Cup featured on the newsletter, I think was huge. And then Zombie being almost an official partner with his streaming of the tournaments, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
I think the community gives everyone confidence in the whole product more than the team itself. Like just knowing how much the community loves Zed Run and all the effort they put in and their success, all these different websites, and streamers are having, that just gives everyone confidence in the product, and like people will want to buy races knowing that there's a huge community behind it. I think that's the most valuable asset everyone has at the moment.
What do you think happens when they get their next New York Times article or the next big wave? Because I know there's been a lot of publication going on over in Australia and some of the smaller newspapers there, but it doesn't seem to have that huge rush effect, kind of like New York Times did.
Yeah, definitely. It's a smaller market in Australia, and I don't think that was a huge exposure. It was sort of just more like an interest piece. Like it's not like a huge marketing thing. It was just like a small article. I think when they do want to do some mass marketing, the product isn't ready yet. I think they know how successful this is going to be, but I think the right thing to do is to wait until the product's not finished, but maybe out of beta and in balance and everything's working properly. I think that's when they can do a big marketing push. And this is what they've said in the roadmap. I think like Q3, Q4 or something is when they're planning that. And that's an exciting thing because they haven't really marketed much at all, and the product is successful. It's getting like has 100,000 users or something like that in Discord. So I just know when they are ready to market, there's so many people that are just going to love this, knowing from the real horse racing industry and how big that is in Australia, that like every single one of these people is going to be interested in Z-Run. And that's the big market is Asia. It seems like they live for horse racing, they live for gambling. They're just going to be fascinated by this, like more than any other NFT project I've seen. So that's something to be very excited about. And I think it's just a matter of just waiting until the product's ready, and then people will come.
So you seem to have a similar approach to me, that you're very patient for what's going on into the future, but then you have a lot of bigger stables tired of the beta process. They're not very satisfied with some of the changes and the growth and how long it's taken to kind of get from point A to point B. What gives you the ability to kind of like step back and keep that patience and kind of grind through it?
I think patience is important because I would prefer them to take as long as possible to get it right. I think we've been in here long enough, not the longest, but we've been in here long enough that when the pressure is put on and then they just want to roll out something quickly and it doesn't work out well. So I would prefer them to take the time to get things done right, or take the time to talk to the community or do surveys and see, hey, this is what we want to implement. What do you think about it? Like, I'm happy for them to take time to do it. But not just that, I think we are always looking long term, and I think we can imagine a really successful future with Z-Run. And I think we're just trying to be patient and wait for that to happen.
And yeah, I think the signs are there. They've made a lot of progress in the last few months. With communications gotten better. There's changes happening. People might not agree with all the changes, but they are trying. There is changes happening. For like some of the people that have been around like longer than us, or like at least a year, will know that there was a period of 3 months where like literally nothing happened. And having gone through that, like if you've made it through that, then you can make it through anything. Like you have the patience for everything. And you can see now that like things are happening and they have a roadmap that's exciting. And if they can hit their targets, like I think, everyone should be very optimistic.
No, I agree. And I think it's important that, bigger stables kind of share that perspective, because I know it gets lost in the noise of, my horse has been in a race for 5 days and I can't get it out, or, a lot of the stuff going on.
Yeah.
Now, you guys, have between 40 and 60 horses in the maiden, spread out between several different jockeys or other people helping you run. When you're looking to let somebody run a horse for you, what are you looking for as far as credentials? Is it people that you've built relationships with? Is it someone who knows how to run horses? Or what's that process of selecting somebody to help your stable out like that?
Yeah, well, initially when we started doing it, we wanted to feel like we could rely on people and trust people, it was a little bit hard, especially when you hear out there that people have lost their horses to scammers or stuff like that. So yeah, definitely from the beginning, we're like, we really want to find reliable, trustworthy people. And on the other end, we did have relationships already built with other people as well. So we felt like we were able to trust them, and they were already doing jockey services for other people. So I think that's initially how we started. And then we've grown that a little bit. We're like, let's just give other people a go. You never really know. They're smaller stables. They might be excited about racing horses that are able to qualify. And we were doing really well in tournaments. So we wanted to see if we were able to have other people benefit from using our horses. So at the moment, it's going really well. We haven't actually had any hiccups. So yeah.
Yeah, no, we've been so impressed with the work people have put in for us, and like they're giving us regular updates, and it's amazing. Like I think for a long time we were protective of like letting other people use our horses, and well, maybe they won't know how to race them or won't race them properly, but like it's not too hard to figure out a horse's distance and pumping out races there. So like we can they'll do a better job than us, to be honest, because they're focusing on a fewer amount of horses. If we try to do 60 ourselves, we're not going to race very well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a lot of races.
It just makes so much sense for people, and it's allowed us to breed more and to experiment more, when before we would have been like, oh, we can't breed that many because we can't race them all. So it's definitely allowed us a lot more experimentation, and it's like something that benefit the bigger, smaller stables now.
So is the horse renting program, or whatever we end up calling it, something you look forward to then, adding that level of protection and trustlessness to the horse renting so you can let more people have access?
Yeah, I think definitely.
For sure. I've never discussed this with you before, but the fact that someone could have an opportunity to rent out Wavelength, like, wouldn't that be awesome? Like, people would absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So
the problem with that is they rent out Wavelength and then we get him back and he's got like 260 class points or something.
I know.
And like, with that.
Well, then you can just rent it out to somebody who specializes in downclassing.
Yeah.
I want to see how it all works. You'd have to be careful. You can't just have people just ruining horses for you. So
yeah,
I think the tournaments is a good way. Like you rent it out for this tournament, so you know what they're doing. They're trying to qualify for the tournament, which is good. I think just renting it out to grind out paid races might be something a bit tricky to organize, but it's definitely possible. And I think that's something that I can see a future with.
Yeah, I'm hoping, like Zed Run's shown that they're willing to adapt and make changes. There's another game I was playing with waiting for drops called Coin Dogs, and they had a renting service, and theirs was a flat rate per races. So you would set, I'm going to put this horse out for rent. Anybody can pick it up for 10 races, and then you would just choose your flat rate, and then they would, after the 10 races, they would no longer have access to race it. I feel like I'm a little bit more excited about that type of model than a profit split, just because one, I think half the value in the higher name horse is just being able to say that you're running it for, I got to run Wavelength for 5 races, not did I win with Wavelength for 5 races.
Yeah. So, as long as if there's a system where like, if people are renting, like paying to rent it out, then they also have to pay to go on races and they lose those races. I think people won't be too excited to rent something out if they're then losing money on top of the rental fee. So there needs to be a sustainable system in place.
Yeah, I'd also be interested for other people to try the renting system before we try the renting system, because the fact that they're bringing in burning of horses, I don't want someone to accidentally burn a horse or accidentally sell it. I don't know how it works. So hopefully if it's
where like trust it.
Hopefully they have it all the kinks worked out to where it only gives you like race access or something. But when they launched breeding again, some horses got bred like 19 times and got stuck in the breeding loop. So
one thing you can be sure of is when Zed rolls out something new, there'll be some bugs.
Yeah. Mike, we'll let you have a go at it first, and you let us know how it goes.
All right.
Yeah. We're also interested, we might be the ones renting out these horses. Like if we see a horse that we think we can turn that horse to be profitable or qualify for a tournament, like maybe we might be more the renters than the people renting them ourselves. So interested to see.
That's interesting. I don't think I've heard any of the bigger stables take that approach. So that's interesting.
Yeah, well, we have the racing expertise and we have the time, and
we'll see. We'll see what it looks like.
But yeah, it's just a suggestion we've been talking about and thinking about. So yeah.
So how far down the road have you guys started kind of planning, or at least talking about with the potential of your guys' stables and
I think
what you're working on?
Before Sarah came on board, I just had no plan at all. And I was just like,
I'm obviously the organized one.
Yeah, and she like sat me down and like, oh, what's your goals for the stable? I'm like, oh, just to like have some fun. And
I'm like, let's do a business plan. And
yeah, so she helped me sort of see the bigger picture and like to focus our resources more on like a long-term goal. But I think it's also hard with all the changes coming and not really knowing what's coming to just to have a goal. So I think right now we're just sort of playing it by ear
as we can, and seeing what happens when the things update and adapt if we have to, and change our strategy if we have to. So it's a little bit of a waiting game.
Trying to have a stable that sort of covers a few areas. Like we've got some like U-shaped horses, and also some distance preference horses and Genesis. Just sort of being prepared for whatever happens, I guess. Like not being solely focused on one type of horse, and then they make a change, and then you've got no way of succeeding. So, I think hedging our bets a little bit at the moment.
Now, is there anything that once you figured out, a skill, or once you've noticed a certain thing, was there anything like that really just started turning around the progress of the stable, or was it always just a whole bunch of little things coming together?
I think it was a whole bunch of little things coming together. We definitely upped our engagement with the community. We were definitely able to up our research because we're both doing the research. We're doubling up on the racing, and the breeding, and just a little bit of everything has kind of contributed to the overall success of our stables.
I think we're constantly evolving and learning and adapting. I know like I wasn't too successful racing back before fatigue came in, when everyone could race as many times as they want a day. Like I couldn't take advantage of that. But I didn't want to race 100 times a day. I was more interested in the research side of it. But then I know when they brought in fatigue, I saw an opportunity to find an edge there where I didn't have an edge before. So I looked for horses that maybe couldn't race 100 times a day and be profitable, but under a fatigue system, they could be profitable. So like in weaker fields, they could be profitable. So that was an area where that was a turning point in the stable, even though when everyone else was complaining about fatigue and the fact their horses couldn't be profitable anymore, that was the turning point for our stable. And that's where we turned profitable, I guess. Before we were not very profitable, and that's where we were both. I was doing the racing.
Is that when I came into the stable?
Around about the time, So I was grinding out the races where you were looking into breeding at that time. But so that's where I started. We started seeing profit and seeing like we can do this. That was the turning point for us, I think.
Yeah, I know when horses were locked up for at least 12 hours in a race and you could enter three races at a time, that's when I made the most money for myself, because it was, all right, who don't I want to run against? And then I'd look them up on Know Your Horse, be like, all right, well, they're already in 2 races. So if I come back in 30 minutes, I won't have to find them. They'll be off the track.
And like, to be honest, right now, I think with the way how long it takes paid races to fill, you're only getting like three or so races in a day anyway. So at least under that previous system, you'd have more of a chance of winning those 3 races. So like, I don't think it was that bad a system, but there was a lot of problems with it as well. Like it doesn't encourage new people to come into the game if you can only race a horse like one time a day fully fit. So
and they've adjusted fatigue since then anyway. So I think they could afford to allow you to do 3 races at a time. Yeah.
Back when you could do 3 races at a time, that really helped the races field quicker. And I don't see an issue with that at the moment if they were to reintroduce that.
Yeah, and personally, with the change to the points of going up and down in class, like I don't even see a need for fatigue, because if you have to lose so many more races for every win you get, and you just want to take one horse and just spend the entire day going up and down, up and down, up and down, winning one and losing 3 or 4, like I don't see why fatigue's necessarily needed. But I'm sure it's based on what they're planning for the future.
Yeah, I feel like horses can race as much as they want nearly right now. So yeah, I think fatigue doesn't really play a big role anymore.
Especially if you have a big stable.
Yeah,
I have like 4 horses that I run, so it's a little bit more cumbersome.
Yeah, that's true.
So I know one of the questions that when people heard that I was having you guys on, how did you two meet?
Well, we met in the real world, not in the virtual world. Yeah, so we've been together for a couple of years now. So
Another 2 years.
Yeah.
We just met through a dating app. That's how anyone meets these days.
Yeah.
It was just it was like just before COVID hit, just before they had like all these lockdowns. So we were sort of lucky that we met then, because I don't know if we would have met soon after with all the lockdowns going on. So yeah, we're lucky we met then, and then sort of a bit of a different start to the relationship with a lockdown. We just ended up really enjoying time together then, and
I had to get to know him because there's nothing else to do in the world. So
yeah. Sort of good, yeah. Couldn't do anything else. Let's just hang out, and we didn't have Zed Run then, but we would do. Yeah, I guess we're a bit nerdy like that.
We're a bit similar. Yeah.
We did jigsaw puzzles, play computer games, and just kill the time that way. We're not didn't affect our lives too much, not being able to go out much, and it was a great way to start a relationship.
What's the favorite computer game?
Oh, we play like the Switch a lot.
Because they had like the old school Nintendo 64 Mario Kart, and then he wanted to verse me on the new version. I think it's rigged because I would have smashed you at the old version of Nintendo 64, but anyway.
So yeah, it doesn't count that I beat it. So we like any game that's sort of like a cooperative where we both get to play together. Like those Lego games, like Lego Harry Potter and stuff. They're like terrible games, but they're incredibly addictive, and you can like pick up all the studs and stuff. We play them for like hundreds of hours just trying to get every little stud and stuff, and you can have like 2 characters together, so it's a good way to spend some time together, I guess.
You're revealing too much of how nerdy we are.
If people like to see that other people in the community like the same things they do, so I'm sure everybody will appreciate it.
I was gonna originally tell people I don't know Rhys. He just reached out to me because he saw that I was racing really good horses, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to team up?" But no, we definitely know each other in real life, and
How important has it been that you guys can find something like Zed Run to kind of build together and play together and spend that much time? Because I know a lot of people probably couldn't handle that dynamic, but you guys seem to do pretty well.
Well, I've spoken to other people that are in similar situations, and they have a partner or a husband or a wife, and they're just not interested whatsoever in Zed Run or NFTs, and I feel super appreciated that I can have someone on a daily basis that I'm able to do this with, because I would find it so difficult if I had a hobby that I couldn't really express or talk to about with my partner.
I think a lot of people do Zed Run as sort of a way to spend time alone away from their partner, and like, not that they want to, but they feel like they can't involve their partner, or like that their partner wouldn't be interested, and so it restricts the time you can spend with your partner and restricts the time you can spend on Zed Run, because you're always going to be sharing time with each of those. And I think in having a partner that is also interested in it with me has meant we can spend more time together and also spend more time on Zedrun. So it's been win-win. And I suggest anyone that has a partner that isn't interested in Zedrun, just lend them a horse for a little while.
Yeah.
And you never know, they might
They might
get into
enjoy
it. It's a very fun game and very addictive. So there's a good chance they're going to get as interested in it as you are.
Yeah. And, you know, even if that doesn't work out, we can see out in the community how valuable it is partnering up with other people. Like you see people meeting each other out in Zedrun and they're like, all right, let's join our tables together. Or you don't necessarily have to join us tables together, just having that value in someone else where you're swapping ideas or talking about theories or just saying, oh, hey, I noticed this horse you might be interested in. Building relationships with other people is super valuable in this game. So I'm really lucky that I can go to the next room and talk about it with Rhys. But you can see it happening in Zedrun. People are getting together and collaborating and being really successful at it.
Yeah, sometimes I wish Arbitrage wasn't such a nice guy, because all those partnerships and stable mergers are going to be a little difficult to deal with in the future.
Yeah. It's hard not to like him. Like, he's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
And you too as well. Whenever I'm reaching out to some people and asking questions, you guys are definitely ones that are suggested for me to go talk to if I do have questions. So your reputation is definitely well known, and people definitely appreciate the work you put in.
Yeah, it's very important to us to be respected in the community. I think it's if you're not interacting with the community and respecting each other, I think you're going to have trouble being successful in this game. It's a social game, and it's designed that we work together.
Yeah,
so.
I think some people forget just because you're on a computer, you're still talking to real humans. You still need to be able to have those skills to build those relationships and get along. And even if they're a small stable or the new guy on the block, you don't understand what value they might be able to provide with you, or in the future what value they might be able to provide you. They might have a horse that you're really interested in or breeding with. So you just never know who you're talking to out there. So naturally, I think we're pretty nice people and helpful people. So I think it naturally comes out when we're talking to people. But yeah, just for other people out there, talk to other people, get to know them, build relationships, because you never know who you're meeting and you never know what value they can provide you.
Yeah, I remember when I was a small stable who I chatted to and who was the bigger stables that were nice to me and helped me out. So you never know, that the small stable that contacts you could be a big stable one day, and you might want to work with them. So I think, just giving everyone that time and respect is really important.
I think that's a perfect place to wrap up. So I really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your story, and hope to have you on in the future.